Who are you? What is your true identity? Think of these two questions throughout this video and give me an answer at the end. Hi, my name is Bronwen Colley, and today I'll be presenting you with the confronting issue of Aboriginal identity. The artwork used to portray Aboriginal identity will be Poetry by Stephen Oliver. The term identity can be applied as the established nature throughout a given period of time and can be also qualified as racial identity and sexual identity. Cultural identity relates to the same inherence within the definition, referring to the shared traits, habits, and norms with members of their cultural group and throughout their history. More specific, Aboriginal identities allowing people to assume the continuity and sameness which contradicts the change in which Aboriginal people demonstrate and experience. An example of Aboriginal identity is demonstrated throughout the stolen generation period. Every single Aboriginal community, family, individual was affected. The trauma towards all Aboriginal communities was accountable due to being taken away from their culture, tradition, land custom, family, and their own individual identity. And Aboriginal children grew up without learning or speaking their language. They didn't hear any custom or traditional stories. They have no family around them. They weren't in a supportive environment. Just because of the colour of their skin, they are regularly separated from the rest of the community around them. Imagine when you were a child and you were taken from your community, your family, placed in a non-supportive environment and being discriminated, all because of the colour of your skin. These Aboriginal children were not allowed to express their own identity. To this day, there are still people who haven't found their community, family, or parents. Their identity as an Aboriginal citizen was pulled apart and never found again. When white people removed the Aboriginal children, they were stealing the future of Aboriginal community, which included their knowledge, dances, language, spirituality, and tradition. By removing the Aboriginal children, the white people were hoping to end all Aboriginal culture, while they were dying out and fixing the Aboriginal problem. For many years, all Aboriginal girls were to grow up and marry nice white boys. This was a part of the white people's plan that Aboriginal women would have nicer, fairer children, and if they were girls, they would eventually marry another white boy, and ultimately, the Aboriginal culture and colour would die away. Aboriginal women were turned against their true identity, turned against their culture, just to kill the culture. Throughout the stolen generation era, many white people took away all Aboriginal identities just because they were deemed different. The Aboriginal women especially had their identity stolen and changed to suit the white people's needs. Imagine the person sitting next to you. They come into your life and take your family, parents, culture, your identity. They take your identity and make you someone you're not. Aboriginal communities have shown an increase in suicide throughout many years. A numerous amount of reasons relating to the increase in emotional torture consists of substance abuse, depression, anxiety, and suicide. All of these issues relate mostly to an individual's decrease in self-esteem and their loss of identity. An Aboriginal man himself, Stephen Oliver, uses poetry in order to create his message and portray it to his audience. His choice of words captures the audience's attention and emotions. Stephen Oliver's piece, Me I Am, was created and posted to YouTube on March 2017. Here, Stephen Oliver talks about who he is, his own identity. Let's
all
take
of this.
a look.
Straight, bi, gay, trans, intersex, queer, black, yellow, red, white. Confusing, right? I mean, how do I dignify how I identify? How is it I find my place in a race that graces the face of this earth, and what is my individuality worth? My head gives birth and hurts with all the thoughts of what I've been taught, yet I know nothing. I think. You are you, true? And I am me.
How do I dignify how I identify? This quote speaks the most to me, as this is able to identify who Stephen Oliver is. Did you question anything Stephen Oliver said? Did you feel an emotional connection with Stephen Oliver? Stephen Oliver explained who he is, and no one else. You are you, and I am me. He told us his own unique individual identity. This video allows for us to understand Stephen Oliver's individual identity. Relating back to those questions I asked at the start of the video, who are you? What is your true identity? In a moment, turn to your partner and introduce yourself and tell them a little about your own unique identity. Remember, identity is not labels. You have your own individual identity. Thank you for listening, and good luck with the rest of your studies.